If the holidays with the families feel overwhelming or draining, you don't lack love, you lack boundaries. And this is something that we can address and we can fix.
If the holidays feel overwhelming and draining for you, it's not because you lack love. It's a good chance that it's actually because you lack boundaries. And this is something we can fix. So, why do boundaries hit harder during the holiday season? A big part of this is because with the holiday season, we start to behave and have ourselves around people that we wouldn't necessarily have ourselves around, all in the name of tradition. The holiday, obviously, for most people, is a time to gather with family. It's supposed to be a time to have good camaraderie with your family. But let's think about this. If there are people who come into your atmosphere during a holiday who you know, in a general sense, you don't mess with them and you don't mess with them for good reason, then the holiday doesn't erase all of that emotion. It doesn't matter how much we talk about Christmas cheer or holiday, New Year's, and happiness and all the things. There are reasons for why there are certain people that you have chosen to exit out your life or to keep distance from. So when the holiday comes, we tend to see more people, the people that we don't tend to see. And some of those people, and many of those people, and commonly, some of those people are the people who we've had to have distance with, give boundaries with, or we just don't mess with them because you understand that they might be messy people. Let's just keep it 100. They may be very messy people, and the best way that you've found to deal with them is to really distance yourself from them. That whole idea of, loving someone from a distance, it's a real thing. You don't have to have everyone in your space and with this idea that you need to be loving. And that doesn't change at the holiday season. But the problem is because of tradition and because of the conditioning that we may have around what holiday means, you may very well be sacrificing your own sense of boundaries because the holiday and the traditions that come along with holiday says that you should do otherwise. But your emotions are something that you can trust and you should trust. And it doesn't mean that you have to forsake them just because of the holiday. So this is why there can be a lot of heaviness with holding boundaries because we're concerned with what looks right or what should be. We have to ask based on whose standards, based on the society standards. I think if we pay attention to our societies, in many societies, there are a lot of things that societies have not gotten right. And we do not have to abide by society standards. You can abide by your own inner standards. So, how can you prepare emotionally when you're in these moments? If you're someone who you're going into a space where these people are, and the solution for you might not be to just absolutely not go, because there could be people there that you do want to see, and you could feel like you don't want to allow this person or these people to control you. You may want to still go and see other family, but these people are going to be in that space. So, how can you prepare yourself emotionally then when you know you're stepping into situations where there can be people who tend to trigger you? So, what I would say to this is let's just say it. If we're allowing someone to trigger us, that means we're giving them our power. If someone is able to trigger us, we're giving them our power, and there's also something that we haven't healed from yet. So this goes to show that separation alone doesn't equal healing. In this time that we're separate from people who have maybe caused some type of pain, it's the time to also start dealing with how you overcome it. You don't have to overcome the pain in conjunction with that person. You don't have to heal from pain with that person. It doesn't require that person to be a part of your healing process. But if someone is still able to trigger you, it's an indication that there are some things that still needs to be healed. So this can be a honest portion of how you prepare, is to just be honest with yourself and just say, this person is someone who does trigger me. And then to explore why is that? And to be grounded so that you recognize when this person does this thing, I tend to respond this way. So to have that awareness is going to be that first part that helps you to be able to respond differently, even if it's your internal response, because you understand that this is something that this person has with a pattern caused in you. And so if it comes up when you're in that surrounding, you don't have to internalize what they're saying because you have this awareness that's like, okay, I feel this emotion coming up and I know this is because I have some healing I have to do. The time that you're listening to this video between now and the time that you're in family gatherings may not be enough time to do the healing, but the awareness that healing needs to happen is a big part of being able to give yourself some boundary and to be able to give yourself a different way to respond. Because it's like you can be in those spaces and be the observer of yourself, not the observer of that other person. Remember, I said that when we allow people to trigger us, it is because we've given them a level of power. So, in those situations when you're with these people, you can recognize that you are the center stage player, you are the star of your show. So, instead of being in these spaces and putting too much focus on what they say and how they say it, that's like putting them in the spotlight. What you can pay attention to internally is how you're feeling and how you're responding, because that impacts how you respond. Recognizing how you're feeling, it gives a little bit of a buffer between your reaction and how you're feeling and how you respond. That awareness, being that observer, is going to give you some space between just reacting to a person and better yet, responding to them. When we talk about having boundaries, for you, it may be that someone having a boundary with this person means that you haven't really been able to master how to say no and how to not be pulled into doing things that you don't want to do. So, two different ways that you can look at saying no. One of them is to just say no. Some people really do feel empowered, and I think you can feel empowered that way if you're at that point, if you're ready for that. Someone asks you to do something and you just say no. And if you feel like you can't just say no, you can say no, thank you, but thank you. I appreciate you asking, but no, I prefer not to. You could also say, I don't feel comfortable with that. So your no is direct, doesn't have to go into long explanation at all, but it can give a little bit of politeness of, no, I'm not comfortable with that, or no, thank you for asking. The other way that you can say no is to say, let me think about this and I'll get back to you. That gives you some time to prepare and get yourself ready to say no. So it softens the no because it gives you a moment to be able to digest what was asked of you and then later give you the courage, if courage is what it is you need in that moment, to be able to say no. So, two ways that you can hold that boundary with someone pulling you into things that you don't feel comfortable with. And lastly, it's important to recognize people who nourish you as opposed to people who drain you. How can you recognize that? Maybe you're not sure about some people that you come in contact with. Maybe that's part of the problem, is there some confusion on if you can trust these people, if these are people that you should have in your life. These are things that come up. These are just real things that we can struggle with. So, two things to pay attention to: how you feel with someone who is nourishing you as opposed to someone who is more toxic. And the way that you can really know this is to pay attention to how you feel in the interaction, but especially pay attention to how you feel after these interactions. There are people who, when you're around them, you feel inspired, you feel motivated, you leave those encounters really feeling good. You understand how you feel when you feel good when you leave an encounter. And on the contrary, you also have these people who, when you're in their space, when you all are sharing space, you feel tension, you feel uncomfortable, you feel diminished, you feel confused. And when you leave those encounters, your vibe feels a little lower. Now, it doesn't matter completely why that is right now, because there can be different reasons for this, but the point is recognizing that this is what you experience when you're with these particular people is important, because this is all going to go back to your own inner work. If it is someone who makes you feel diminished, then this is about you starting to do the work to feel validated for yourself, not from anyone else, that you have your own conviction of being valid and validated and necessary and important. These people are mirrors. They are, how can I say, they're really sent to help you because they allow you to see what at the end of the day is coming from within. Doesn't mean that you started it, but they could have been a part of why you feel the way you feel. But at the end of the day, we have to keep the power in our arena, not give it to someone else. So recognizing how you feel, if you're feeling diminished, nothing to be embarrassed about, nothing to feel bad about. Most people experience this. All people experience this at some point in their life, regardless of if they say it or not. But for you and your own journey to be able to recognize the difference between the two and how you feel with people is important. And it takes it back to you being able to now start dissecting why that is and then working on that element within your life. Remember, you don't need these other people to overcome pain that you've experienced with them. You only need yourself, in this beautiful universe that we live in. So just remember, this is a beautiful time of year, and it can be when it comes to connections, but actually having boundaries is going to really not lessen your connections. It actually strengthens connections because the people who respect your boundaries, you will recognize them because they don't try and violate your boundaries. So this is something that I'm sending to you. If you have really felt that this video has been helpful, put a heart in the comment section. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate that. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.